Hello, and welcome to the Scappa podcast, Creating the Future with me, Michael Brasser. On the podcast, we invite visionary leaders across government, academia, and industry to paint their big, bold visions of the future, but more importantly, tell us how they're going to deliver on those big, bold visions. We have a very, very special guest today here, Erik Smith, President and CEO of Saab Inc., my boss, the co-founder of Scappa, but also a distinguished career in aerospace and defense dating back to 25 years. Erik, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a long time coming.
Yeah, it's and this, we're kind of wrapping up season 1 here of the podcast, and no better way to close out season 1 than with the creator of this effort here we call Scappa. Hey, Erik, I wanted to understand if you could tell us how you got to this point in your career, and if you could just start back from, leaving college or how you ended up in aerospace and defense in general, but walk us through your pathway here to Saab Inc.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's, as you've heard me say before, I didn't take a straight line path to this job. So I tried aerospace and defense a couple times. First was accepted to the Naval Academy, decided not to do that. Probably one of my greatest regrets in my career. Yeah. Ended up at forestry school with 8 of my best friends from high school. Lived that dream for about a year before I ended up in a little bit of trouble and actually ended up out here in San Diego. And so ended up with an undergraduate degree back in Rhode Island. So so graduated from Roger Williams University with an international political science degree. Started working for Raytheon at that time as an intern, and then kind of came up through their leadership development program.
And so what year time frame is that when you started working at your Raytheon?
I started Raytheon in 2000.
2000, okay.
Yep. So it's been just about 25 years.
Okay.
Although I did, I kind of grew up in the industry and around the industry, and my old man was in the Navy, and I developed an appreciation for the sacrifices our military makes for us through my own family life, and just ended up growing into the job and the responsibilities from there.
Okay, and so what was in your portfolio that first job at Raytheon?
I was doing contract management when I started at Raytheon, I was doing export control. So a lot of just filing export licenses and paperwork and that kind of stuff, and learning that part of the business. I went into their leadership development program in contracts management. And kind of came up through the contracts management ranks before moving into program management and some capture management stuff before I left Raytheon in 2007. Okay,
2007. Did you leave for another opportunity, or is this the start of the Saab story, so to speak?
I started my career working largely in the naval domain, and then moved into the intelligence community space. Left Raytheon out of the intelligence community space and went to at that point in my career, I kind of decided that I needed a small business perspective from a resume and experience. So I went to a small startup company in upstate New York called Census Corporation. And in that job, met some folks from Saab, and ultimately a number of us put together a relationship between Census and Saab to sell their radars in the United States for them, specifically on the LCS program. Okay. And that relationship ultimately led to the acquisition of Census in 2011 by Saab, and that's how I ended up at Saab and ran the radar business for them for a period of time before taking the CEO job in 2016.
Okay, and in 2016, so when you took over Saab in 2016, what was the portfolio? If you could share, what was the turnover? What type of company did you take over? Because I think it's a really interesting story from there to here. We're in a much different place. So.
Sure. Yeah, when we started, it was I would say it was a very diverse set of independent organizations, some of which were 30 people with their own brand and their own product portfolio. We had a separate kind of broad business development organization in DC, a training company, a radar company, an air traffic control company, a camouflage company, just a disparate set of independent companies. And the task was take all those entities and ultimately create an integrated brand and platform in the United States that leverages what I'll sometimes refer to as the magic in the middle between the American way of doing things and the Swedish way of doing things and culture, and how do you mesh those things together with the Swedish technology portfolio and the American engineering to kind of create something new and differentiated in and for the U.S. market.
What would you say is the best aspect of both of those both of those features of Saab Inc?
Well, I think the best way I've ever found to say it is that there is a magic in the middle. You have a very consensus-driven culture, very flat consensus-driven culture in Sweden. You have a very hierarchical kind of culture in the U.S. And if you can find the middle ground there, you can create some efficiencies that are pretty special. And similarly, when it comes to business models, you have a very large company, large prime, bureaucratic, dare I say, slower type of culture in the prime level companies in the U.S. versus kind of some smaller mindset, more entrepreneurial type mindset in commercial mindset in Sweden. If I can find the magic in the middle in those models, I can create something differentiated, and that's what we've been doing. Right, is really figuring out how to take the best of both worlds, pull them together, and create something pretty unique in this market.
Okay, and so what have you created? What is Saab Inc. today?
So today Saab Inc. is a $500-600 million integrated, efficient organization that is pretty focused in 4 vertical lines of business around aerostructures, around land weapons and training systems, around that's called defensive commercial electronics, and underwater and autonomous systems. And so we've built an integrated platform that all operates in a cohesive way, but delivers in 4 verticals across the U.S. government, leveraging the technology portfolio from Sweden and the engineering capacity and portfolio in the United States. Okay. It's a pretty unique value proposition.
Okay, now I thought it'd be kind of first of all, that's a remarkable run. What prepared you for that sort of growth? I'm talking about you, the leader, from that experience, or maybe nothing did prepare you, but.
I'm the kind of guy that only experience can prepare me. And so I don't learn well from books or from other people's experiences. And so, the nice thing, and one of the things that I'm sort of eternally grateful for is Saab's willingness to give us that opportunity to learn those lessons and build this the way we thought we needed to. And it's worked out so far.
Yeah. So I thought it would be interesting to share how our paths crossed and ultimately led to the creation of Scappa, which if you could share that story, I think that would be fun for our viewers who've been watching the podcast.
So, people had talked to me about you and what you were doing at 5'9" for a while. I can remember any number of conversations. And at the time, I was of the mind that you were going to go get picked up by, somebody, one of the big primes. And, but you ran into one of our guys at a trade show event, I think, and got talking and showed some interest. And so you and I got on a phone call one Saturday morning, and I think that led to, 4 or 5 different Saturday mornings where we're kind of brainstorming back and forth with your sort of Navy autonomy and AI robotics background and what you were doing in your real world job every day, and how I saw the challenges from an industry perspective and how we could create something that would be differentiated and allow and leverage the kind of company that Saab is to be able to solve the kind of problems you were seeing every day in Task Force 59. I think there was a natural synergy there that this just worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and on my side, I was headed off in a different direction.
Yep.
I was on a pathway to help a good friend stand up Diana Deep Chana, and I had this interaction with one of our former colleagues, and then you and I clutched in, and we just started sketching out basically in the sand. I was just wrapping up my tour at Task Force 59, and it's so rewarding to be here today with you, something that we co-designed, 2 years ago, and then already delivering for the U.S. government on multiple contracts.
It's really, you have to give the credit to the company that we work for, and that we can come with an idea that you and I sketched out on a couple of weekends in a PowerPoint, and have them be so supportive of what we're trying to do and see the vision out there, and allow us the opportunity to bring some unique value specifically to the fleet and to the operator community that is out there. It's you don't get this opportunity every day, that's for sure.
So it's been an interesting pathway here.
Sure.
I'm obviously forever grateful to be on this journey with you and co-creating the future of defense and security. But before we get to the future, let's talk about what you're working on now at Saab Inc. that you're really excited about. That's got you energized. Just what's getting you really excited?
Yeah, I mean, again, I go back to we're in such a unique space right now. We've got a great technical breadth and capability that we've built up here, but it's to date that breadth is largely in the commercial and defense electronics and UUVs to some degree, and starting to be in the weapons business and training business. But where we're at is we need the capacity here in the U.S. So we're building 4 new manufacturing facilities here in the U.S. right now. We're spending a lot of time on a brand new weapons and ammunition factory up in Grayling, Michigan. We've got 2 new buildings coming online in Syracuse, New York, 1 in Bristol, Rhode Island, and at least I expect we'll have at least 1 or 2 more coming on here or coming up here shortly. So it's a lot about capacity build. Yeah. We've been growing at such a fast rate that and there's so much demand out there right now, just given the state of the world, that we're lucky to be able to build up the capacity that's needed to serve these customers. And so it's a lot about that, and then it's a lot about maturing the capability of the organization, both from a just from a management scale perspective, as well as staying at the leading edge of the technology. Right, that's what Scappa is all about. Is how do you both stay at the leading edge of the AI, autonomy, and robotics revolution, and put yourself in a position to deliver capability and capacity quickly, and so that's the magic we're trying to create out here in San Diego. Yeah,
and it's such a rich opportunity, but also just a rewarding challenge, right? To become a truly ambidextrous organization, one that can deliver on current commitments, but also in the same time intersect the future.
That's right.
It's
2 totally different skill sets required to do that, right?
Yeah.
And very, very rare to find an organization or a human that has the skill set to do both, to truly innovate, allow that fail fast kind of mentality, and deliver predictable results. on your big programs and that kind of thing. So developing an organization that has that ambidextrous capability is a big focus of mine right now.
Yeah. On the building capacity in the U.S., right? So these are significant investments.
Yeah.
I mean, you also have to touch sort of a different set of expertise right there. I mean, you also go to a building manager, and
Sure.
and it's easy to sort of say this stuff, but you actually got to deliver. What's been some lessons learned there, or what do you take from that experience? Because you've done it before and you've learned, and
Sure.
each time you've gotten better.
I think with anything, whether it's anything you're doing new, as a leader, it's really important to recognize and respect what you don't know.
Yeah.
Know what you don't know, and so because if you do that, then you could then and you're comfortable with. I don't know how to manage large construction projects. That's not what I do.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that are experts in doing it. And part of what we've gotten pretty good at from a Saab perspective is being able to go out and get the subject matter experts in given areas. We don't have to do it all ourselves, right? I don't need. Yes, we have a facilities organization that manages these projects, but they're hiring the experts to go build a large weapons and ammunition factory in Michigan or a UUV factory in Bristol, and so. To me, that's a really important part of it. The other part of it, as we're building capacity, is the communities that we're operating in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important that we, as we build this capacity, that we become part of the communities, a meaningful part of the communities that we're operating in. We're not just going to build factories where politically it makes sense or economically it makes sense. Those are considerations, but it's a lot about the communities that we're choosing to be a part of.
Well, and it's so relevant to the reason we planted this here, right? We wanted to be in the community where the warfighters, live, play, operate, and it's this week is just an affirmation of. We made the right decision. I mean, just this week, we've had, Naval Special Warfare, ONR, NAVSEA, all these folks just passing through here, DIU. I mean, it's been we're part of this community. And then there's a larger, really exciting defense tech ecosystem coming together here in San Diego.
That's how we envision it, right? Yeah. Is this is a place where people can bring their problems. And we can work on in a different way, in an innovative, sort of with that one side of the brain from an organizational perspective. Just work on solving problems, operational problems, and that's why this office is here. Is just to get that feedback in as close to real time as we can, and help them figure out how to solve the problem.
And our most powerful tool, which we've been wearing out the past 2 days, is that whiteboard over in our command center. And on top of the whiteboard, it says, "Think well to the end, consider the end first." Just kind of before we go peek into your head in terms of your vision of the future. When you think about delivering on capabilities now or delivering effect now, how does the talent piece fit into your mindset? And what are you after when you're looking for talent?
Talent is, at the end of the day, we're nothing without the people that are here helping us every day and a part of this company. And so talent is really important to me, but it's critical to not just have the right talent, but have the right people with the right talent. Mm-hmm. And those are two different and independent things. And so, we are working hard to build the right type of workforce that is, that's not driven by technical ego or that has the right personality to interface on behalf of Saab with the operator community out here, with the acquisition communities and some of our other parts of the company, but people that have a very real respect for what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. Because to me, you can go hire, Joe engineer off the street. That's not really what we're looking for. This is a unique opportunity. It's a unique time, and we're looking for unique talent. And because of the model that we have, we're able to attract that kind of talent. And so your case in point to that.
Well,
and you got a bunch of people in this office that are the same way.
Yeah, I just want to speak from a very personal level. Like I said, I was heading off in a different direction. I was very, very happy with that direction and excited. But when you started explaining the value prop and the way you work and the values of this company, I changed course. And one of the things that I really love, not only about the opportunity, which we've alluded to before, is the investment that you made in me personally and my team in terms of professional development, right? You put me in a stretch role. I by my nature, I'm an explorer, I'm a discoverer, I'm a creator, but I had no business, business acumen, as you say. You invested in me. You sent me to Harvard Business School, like one of the premier business schools, to develop that and the the patience. I just want to thank you for that. But also, it's not just about me. It's about what we do for everybody on our team. And so it's a really, I don't know if that's part of your leadership philosophy or what, but it's...
Well, look, it starts, and we've had this conversation before, but it starts with me, right? What you're talking about and the experience that you've had is no different than the experience that I've had myself with this company, right? Got it. The reality is, 2016, this company turned the keys over to a CEO that had no experience being a CEO, hadn't built large scale businesses across the geography. They trusted me to figure it out, and you're not going to get that opportunity. That's why we're so picky about the people that we're bringing in here and who becomes part of this. Part of this team and the talent that we're trying to get after is because we fully intend to give the people that come work for Saab opportunities to succeed in ways you're not going to get anywhere else. I've been around the industry. I worked for the big guys. I've got a network of people across this industry that I'm pretty comfortable saying you just get a different opportunity set here. And for the most part, to 90% when you give the right people those kind of opportunities, they excel in spades. And you're seeing it in Saab Inc. right now, every day.
So interesting path to where we are here today, both from a personal perspective, and I guess we'll talk about that little stint you did. Your little diversion. We'll talk about that at the iBar later tonight. And then what you've built here at Saab Inc. But as we sort of roll into the summer of 2025, we want you to peer into the future and paint a picture of what the future looks like as you see it. And one of the things about the guests on this podcast is we invite not only dreamers but doers, right? People that have big, bold ideas of the future, but deliver it and deliver it. So take any time horizon you want, Erik, but we just want to hear your vision of the future.
Sure. So, look, many folks have heard me say that if I took the Saab portfolio and just fully landed the whole portfolio in the United States, this company wouldn't be a $6 billion company; it'd be a $60 billion company. And so, at a giant, at the biggest picture scale over some time horizon, I think that's what the future looks like. Because I think this is a company that has the unique value proposition and setup and technology base to be able to play at the top tier scale in this market over time. We're not gonna do that tomorrow. We're gonna do it by picking our niche markets and niche opportunities. You've heard me say this is a rifle shot company, not a shotgun company. We're gonna be very focused on what we're doing, but ultimately we want to provide as much value and leverage to the American warfighter as we possibly can. And so how do you do that? You do that by developing an ambidextrous organization that is able to deliver on large capital projects while at the same time innovating at the edge of where the technology is and where it's going. And so, so in my sort of future vision of the world, Scappa here in San Diego is that incubator, that short, what I'd call short-term incubator, because we've talked about it's really about 3 years at a time. And how do you take the technology that exists both within Saab and within the industry and apply it to capabilities that you can deploy operationally within a 3-year window, either through our larger vertical organizations. As those organizations grow, Scappa becomes a massive enabler to them, or through directly through R&D projects and things like that we have going on both internally and with our customers. So, and as the footprint grows and as that model builds out and you get more resource in terms of human capital and others on either side of that ambidextrous model, I think the organization becomes more and more impactful, not just in the U.S., but broadly across all of our closer allies. And which is, another thing that you and I've talked about many times is, as the maturity happens here in the U.S., which is, happening on an exponential scale every year, you start to look at how do you do more for the allied base and an even tighter partnership with our parent company.
Very, very interesting. Now, if we could zoom out a little bit and go to the industry at large or the future of defense and security, if you could paint that picture and then describe where you think we add value to that picture, or how do you think this plays out? I mean, we're in the midst of a disruption, right?
We're in the midst of a massive disruption right now, and you see it in almost a bifurcation of the market to some degree. You've got legacy prime contractors, the large legacy prime contractors that have been doing this for a long time and been part of, sort of built into the fabric. And then you've got a world where, I never thought when I started my career, I would see the kind of private equity and venture capital money coming into the aerospace and defense industry and the amount of new company startups that are coming in. But those companies demand a different acquisition model, right? They're driving a different type of behavior, and the legacy companies are struggling to figure out how to wrestle with that. I think the great thing about Saab is that we're able to thread that needle between those two, right? We've been doing this a long time, hundreds of years as an aerospace and defense prime around the globe. But we're set up in a way that allows us to behave like a private equity backed, company, or, we've got a lot of agility and ability to move in different ways and think with a much longer time horizon than maybe some of the other legacy folks that have been doing this for a long time. So it allows us to create a value proposition that is that's unique. We have a breadth of technologies that is relevant to the fights today, ready to go. So it's not vaporware, it's not marketing hype. A lot of what I see out there right now is, I don't even want to know how many millions of dollars are being spent on marketing engines that are driving, not ready for prime time capabilities in some cases. we don't have to work. We don't have that problem, right? We've got TRL 9+ technology sitting here today, funded, not waiting around for government money to come in. We build products, we have products, and we're able to bring them to the fight now.
So really good context, vision. How would you describe your sort of are you optimistic about the future? Are you pessimistic?
I would say I'm an optimistic guy.
Yeah.
I think all the tools that need to exist to effectively drive solutions to the problems that we're seeing out there, I believe to a large degree they exist today.
Okay.
Or the base technologies necessary to get there. I think we need to focus on how do we put the pieces together in an efficient way, get that capability out there for deterrence purposes or fighting purposes, depending on what's going on in the world. But I feel like as a nation, as sort of our global alliance of partners, we have all the tools, and we just have to put it together and put them together in the right way, and everything, and it'll work out. This is certainly a time of change, and people get nervous about change and worried. Yeah. But as I look at it, I feel confident we have the tools we need to weather the storm.
On a personal level, I love the dynamism of this job, right? And you've given me a really interesting charter here. You've made me the chief strategy officer for Saab Inc., right? So in the protect the core, deliver on current commitments business, but I'm also your corporate explorer in Scappa and discovering the future. And that is just a really clever move. Why did you do that? And because, for example, my counterparts on Explore, at a Phantom Works or Skunk Works, they're not part of the core business.
I think again the charter of Scappa is a little different, right? It's not intended to be looking out 20 years or we are really focused on how do we put the capabilities together now to get capability out there to the fleet. And so when you think about what do you need to do to develop a strategy, what has to inform that strategy, the core business is pretty well understood. The cutting edge of technology is not as well understood. It's a world that you've played in both from a tactical, everyday, as well as from just strictly from a customer perspective. So I think when we put those three things together and we say, okay, now we're going to have one person or an organization that is focused on understanding the state of the art at the front end of the technology curve, understanding the customer's perspective from an operations perspective, and putting the strategy and using those two perspectives to inform the strategy of the company. It just made sense to me. And so far, I guess it's working out.
Well, I hope it's working out for you, okay? Or you could regard this as one of the worst decisions of your life. Well, Erik, we're going to just about to wrap up just a fascinating discussion, but also a very personal discussion for me. What is there anything that you wanted to talk about or you want to talk about that I didn't ask you that you want to share with the Scappa podcast? We've got a growing viewership, listenership here. What's on your mind that we haven't discussed today?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything particular. What I think I would say, as I've said to other folks, is this is a very new day, and a day in which, as an industry, we need to get our heads around the times of living in this entitled world where our customers tell us their problems, and we tell them that we'll solve them when and if they pay us to solve them. Those days are gone, right? And our warfighters need us to lean into our own understanding of the problems, helping them get to solutions. And if we do that, the money, the economics will come. We're sitting at a time, we don't have time for 5-year development programs and 7-year, 10-year development cycle. We need to figure out how to have enough of a dialogue and communication between our operators, the COCOM commanders, to understand their problem set so that we can go out and help them solve their problem, and just trust that if we can do that, if we can effectively solve their problems, the economics will follow. And it's just similar to what I say about program execution. At the end of the day, it's on us to deliver what we said we were going to deliver. And I think as an industry overall, we need to focus on getting our guys what they need. And that's what Scappa is all about. That's what all these people walking through this office all day today has been about, and it's what we're going to continue to be about. Is just making sure that we can understand the capabilities that are needed and do our part to help those kids out. Because I wasn't one of those 18-year-old kids that made the decision to go fight on the front lines, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure those guys have what they need.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect way to finish. And the reason I came over here was the mission of keeping people in society safe.
That's right.
That was a mission I dedicated my life to, and I still feel I'm delivering on that mission. And I want to thank you not only for joining us on the podcast, but for giving us this opportunity to create the future, and take risk and go after it, and invest in this team, and just go get after it. So thanks again for joining on the podcast. Very, very special edition of the Scappa podcast as we wrap up season 1. Thank you, Erik Smith, for joining us.
Can't win what you don't put in the middle.
Yep.
Right?
Love it.
Thanks.